Well, this is the last night that I am in the North Woods of Wisconsin, and I'll be heading east to New Hampshire across the Midwest, and I'm looking forward to those travel podcasts and videos as well. Welcome back to the Bob Davis Podcast YouTube channel. Thanks again for over 1,000 subscribers, and that has been great. It's really been a huge positive development. So it's a beautiful night up here, and I spent all day cleaning Mobile Podcast Command, which is right over there somewhere. There it is. Spent all day cleaning Mobile Podcast Command, and I've got it down to that sort of perfection of only the things that are essential are in the vehicle right now. I threw a lot of stuff away. I pared a lot of stuff down. I saved a lot of stuff, put it in the shed. Anything I don't need or won't be using, I put away. And so it's super clean. I actually went and got some ammonia and steel wool and cleaned that thing with ammonia and steel wool to the point where I'm exhausted actually right now. And I got to tell you that that was just a great experience. So super clean, super organized, really looking forward and ready to roll, and very happy about that. I wanted to take a few minutes and do a little bit longer video because I've been doing shorts the last few weeks on YouTube. First, obviously, to thank everybody for subscribing. We're over 1,000 subscribers now. We're on our way to 2,000 subscribers. And that's pretty amazing. I mean, in less than a month, we added actually, I only had about 80 subscribers when I reactivated the channel. So that means that I added 1,000 slightly more or less in less than a month to the podcast channel on YouTube, which is pretty great. I just put up a podcast to talk about how bad service is not service at all. And I think bad service by large companies in particular has become a thing. I talk about the excuses that these companies will often throw out, COVID or post-pandemic employment issues, things of that nature. And I had a terrible experience just recently with my internet service provider. I do not want to take 25 minutes in this video to go through and explain, as I do in the podcasts, which are available at the BobDavisPodcast.com and Spotify and iTunes, how difficult it was and what they did. But basically, I ran afoul of some kind of rule, which I don't believe was fair, in that 2 Sundays ago, I got a message from something called the Net Violations Department. And I'm not going to tell you who my internet service, I'm not internet service, but my host, my web page, sorry, I'm a little tired. My web page host is, because I don't want to be a Karen. I just want people to understand the difficulties. Got this email that said, you're in violation of da-da-da-da-do. You need to take down these files. We tried to explain to them, and here was the violation. The violation was they looked at these files, or whatever looked at these files, more than likely some kind of software, and concluded that I was storing pictures and MP3 files on the website, which of course I am not. My website contained over 1,000 podcasts, 1,106 podcasts, pictures, and blogs and outbound links and sponsorship banners and so forth and so on. All of those are on an active website. They're being served up as we speak. And so to say that those are for storage is incorrect. Well, we went round and round and round. My web developer was brought in. I was brought in. We called them. We could not make them understand that the problem was really something that they were seeing as a problem that wasn't a problem. So in the end, we decided, okay, we're going to move to a virtual private server, which was recommended to go around this problem that we were having with this violation. Now, I'm trying to compress this, so you'll have to listen to the podcast for a more complete explanation. So that cost me $450 of time for my web developer. Fair enough. It was something that she did on a weekend, and we were very happy about that. So we didn't have to move, and we took down the pictures. That was the first thing we did from those years that were affected, because this goes back to 2009, and we thought we thought we were okay. The next Sunday, I get another net violations. You have to take your website down, and they took it down. So last Sunday, for a period of time, the BobDavisPodcasts.com was down, and I was very disillusioned. I mean, I almost said, you know what? I don't care. Turn it off. Whatever. So at the end of the whole thing, we decided to migrate to a virtual private server. The migration was in progress, and the fourth or fifth or sixth person that my web developer talked to said, "What are you doing?" And we concluded that this whole thing was basically an upsell on the part of the host to get us to spend more money. And then finally we got back to this other guy who said, you didn't have to do that at all, but you still have to take the files down. Here's where it gets interesting. For a long time, I have felt that the content prior to my going on the road in 2020 was incongruent and not relevant to my life now. This is a lot of political content. This is a lot of podcasts about conventions and political issues, because when I started doing political radio, and when I left radio, I thought what I would do is I would just do a political podcast. And for a while, I did the podcast like I did the radio show, and I did a podcast every day. It's one of the reasons that there's so many up there, going back to 2009, and then again in 2013 and 2014. Well, it's just not relevant to what I'm doing now. First of all, I've changed. And I think I said at one point during one of the podcasts that if you looked at all the podcasts going back to 2013, what you would have heard is a metamorphosis, where you have a person who changed and who wanted to change. And that was visible if you started with podcast 1B and went all the way up to the current time frame, at least in 2020 when I went on the road permanently, much to the chagrin of many of my radio friends who were like, why aren't you talking about politics? Well, I just don't want to. I don't find anything interesting about politics anymore at all, and I won't discuss it. I mean, I talk about politics with my son, and I talk about politics with my friends, but not really. I don't want to talk about it. I sure as hell don't want to do podcasts about it, because I think the political space is saturated, and I don't think there's really anything, of value in the political sphere to talk about as a podcaster. So I talk about travel, and I talk about adventure, and I stay with the travel vibe. I try to stay with the travel vibe because I think that's the best thing to do. And that's what I've been doing. So it turns out that we didn't have to move to a virtual private server at all. We just had to take the files down. And I'm not happy about that. I mean, I would have liked to have left the files up for congruence, but I'm also okay with it because I kind of wanted to take them down anyway. It's just that now, if you go to the Bob Davis podcast and you go to listen to a podcast prior to 2018, the blogs are still there. There's no pictures. There's no MP3 files. So there's no data. And I'm sorry about that, because we really couldn't find a way that quickly. That second run, as a result of this host's terrible service, ended up costing me $550. So all told, it cost me $1,000 plus whatever it cost to migrate and everything else, which was completely unnecessary. And to me, I chalk it up to just terrible service. And I think more often than not, and I put the podcast up a couple days ago, and I've received quite a few emails from people saying, I have the same problem. I work in customer service. I work at this place. I work in that place, and I know what it's like. And there's no leadership, and there's no whatever. American productivity has been going down for I think something like 9 or 12 or 13 quarters in a row. American productivity has been going down. It's not a good sign. We need productivity to improve wealth for everybody, for all the 120 million Americans that aren't either retired or wealthy. It's the productivity that makes the big difference in terms of standard of living in this country. And it suggests to me that there's a problem with service. And when you go look at these companies and you hear these companies' CEOs talk and do projections and things like that at earnings time, you would think that these companies are just kicking ass, but they're not. And in fact, this company likes to call its service kick-ass service, and it's not kick-ass service at all. In fact, it's unfair. It's what's the word? Arbitrary. And even painful, because it certainly damaged what I was doing. Now, the website's faster. It serves up podcasts faster. That's all great. And now all the content is basically travel content. So, yeah, you can understand that. That's something that you can understand in terms of, why I feel good about it, because that means that we're moving forward in terms of the content being focused on travel and not on the political stuff going way back prior to 2018. So that's a good development. And I wanted to come on and just let everybody know, if you do visit the website, some people do, some people don't. Some people listen to the Bob Davis podcast on Spotify. Some people listen to the Bob Davis podcast off the page at thebobdavispodcast.com or whatever. If you go to the website, you're going to see holes in the content. And I'm sorry about that, but that was the easiest thing for us to do short term. Long term, I'm thinking about doing some stuff. I don't know if I can legally do it, so I have to wait. And when I figure that out, then we'll make some further changes to the website. Right now, we're just going to leave it alone. And it just was an opportunity for me to kind of really talk about the fact that I think American business really has a problem with service. Okay? So, again, thanks for 1,000 subscribers. Visit thebobdavispodcast.com and see how fast it is. Visit the Bob Davis Podcast on Spotify and Google Podcasts. Stitcher.com, which I'm not a big fan of. I think Google Podcasts are much better for Android devices for the podcast. Or right off the page at thebobdavispodcast.com. You can subscribe there too. And if you really want to help, you can subscribe to the Bob Davis Podcast at iTunes. That really helps the feeds as well. And thanks for watching the Bob Davis Podcast YouTube channel, because this is really becoming something that's viable, and that really is exciting. I'm going to try not to do 25, 26-minute videos, because I'm not sure that that's something that you want to sit through. There's really not much more to say other than Mobile Podcast Command, which is barely visible back there, is ready to go. I'm leaving tomorrow morning. I'm super excited to get back out on the road. So then we're gonna start getting into some fun travel type stuff. So stay tuned, and thank you again for subscribing, and thanks for all 1,000 of you that subscribed. Thanks again to Peter Santinello and everybody else that has helped put this thing together. Bye-bye.